Recording is on.
There we go.
There are some things like archiver diagnostic for wireless environments. What's the other one? Several utilities. Also, the DVD player is in there.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about what's on the Mac?
Yeah, exactly.
Let me see.
DVD player. I didn't even know that still existed.
Yeah, I would. That actually surprises me too. Who uses DVDs anymore? For real? I mean, for real. Let me see.
Hey,
Well,
that DVD player app is really, really good, actually.
I don't use it on the computer, but I use DVDs.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a good idea. Because I think that I think it would because there are a couple of apps already in GNUstep that actually fit this. One of them is the speech recognition app. And the other one is, I think, the speech synthesis app, because they both run as services, but they both run as applications. And, I mean, because it's impossible to provide a service via a daemon, it's not really impossible, but it's kind of just more difficult than it would be if it was just an app.
Even things like Workspace, like why would you want to click Workspace if you're already in Workspace? Like, what good does that do? Like,
absolutely.
Or login window, or menu.app or anything.
Yeah, it would be you'd also have to like you'd also, I think you touched on it in your document here. You'd have to add another domain. You'd have to add a different domain. Yeah. Because right now we have local system network, and yeah, you'd have to add another one. I don't see a problem with that. I think that's actually a really good idea.
Or an extra var under system, maybe, that you just make the application use as the installation. But that's one of the things I was actually bringing up to Greg is, would it be possible for us to contribute a file system layout to ToolsMake and GNUstep? Or,
oh yeah,
I mean, that way it would make packaging significantly easier for Arch, other distributions, because then we don't have to, I don't know, copy around a file for packaging. It's just part of ToolsMake already.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can do that.
Finder app is also in core services, for instance.
Pardon?
Finder app is also in core services.
So the pattern would be everything that is launched by the system automatically, and the user is not supposed to manually double-click it, would then probably go to core services.
Right.
And the layout I was proposing, it is exactly like the GNUstep layout so far, with two changes. Prefix is just root. And then instead of having everything that's not applications or library gets tucked under library. So when you go from, user domain, network domain, local domain, or system domain, it's just completely consistent.
Right. I mean, there are other things that might fit this pattern too. I mean, some people have proposed the idea of writing a login panel. Actually, I tried years ago to do one, and that would probably live in core services or something like that.
Yeah, Pro Bono's already started one. Actually, it's.
Oh, really? Okay.
I have demos if you want to see any today, but.
Oh, cool.
Or he might.
The login app, of course, would be something that, even though it has been started as a component for Gershwin, if GNUstep is interested, I would be more than happy to contribute that to GNUstep, of course. The question being, though, does that even make sense to have user-facing applications as part of the, let's say, framework which GNUstep seems to be. Where is the line between the
That
framework
seems like the
and
biggest
then
problem
what's
now.
going
People keep thinking it's a next desktop when it's really a whole application development.
Well, I mean, and this has been a consistent source of confusion. And where I draw the line, and I actually did this as soon as I took over being maintainer. By the way, guys, just to let you guys know, there are times I really hate that title because I don't think of myself as being any better than anybody else on the project. I just happen to be sort of like the traffic cop, you know. But when I took over, it basically occurred to me that it was better that we take on the sort of the mantra of OpenStep, because OpenStep was supposed to be a a sort of like it was supposed to be a framework that was available on many different operating systems, Windows and Linux. I mean, Windows and Solaris. And when I was at Fannie Mae, we used OpenStep 1.1 for Solaris, which was very much like OpenStep 4.2 for Mach. And we had actually OpenStep 4.2 for Mach on Spark, which was kind of wild having it on two different, on Solaris and on Mach on the same architecture. But I mean, so I made the decision to keep it just a framework, and that's it, and with a few example applications, and maybe some like G Workspace is kind of an outlier. So are certain other ones too. Gorm is not, because obviously it's core to development. Project Center is not also, but there are a few in the examples directory that probably should be moved out, or taken on by other projects. So a login panel, while it would be useful for a desktop, I think that's where it belongs, in a desktop project. And so, yeah, I mean, the reason why I did that was because like we're all good at. I mean, I personally am very good at writing, you know, libraries. I really suck at doing desktops. Okay, you guys are good at doing desktops. And it's like I literally like, so I know where my strengths are, and I prefer that people who are strong in other areas do those particular things too. So it's like, yeah, I think that certain applications belong in the desktop, and that certainly is one of them. Like, uh, I think inadvertently Gap, also forms the basis of applications you can use as a desktop, application, set of applications. I don't know. I hope I'm making any sense at all. I don't know if I am.
Yeah, that sounds very reasonable to me. I think there is a set of applications that should be in GNUstep. For example, everything that is related to project builder, so Xcode essentially. This type of developer tools, I think, makes sense to be developed alongside the frameworks. And then there is a set of applications that are really the desktop environment, which, I mean, if you look at the relationship of Qt and KDE, one is the toolkit and the other is the desktop environment. So probably it would make sense to have a separation like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the relationship that we have with. I mean, let's use Gershwin as an example. I mean, with that, we are. GNUstep is Qt. Gershwin is KDE. For that, to use them as an analogy.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean in GTK and GNOME it's similar,
Mhm.
but there it's more the same people everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty much how I've been thinking about it all along. As well.
Yeah, but I mean, they're all part of the. See, the difference is they're all part of one project. They're all part of the GNOME project. We are two separate projects, sort of. So
Right.
it's like it gets confusing for people who can't think more broadly. But maybe we need to simplify that too.
I guess KD is a little better, has a better distinction, right? Because it is technically two different projects.
Mm-hmm. Is it KDE and Q?
I thought so. I mean, at least KDE, I know, makes a bunch of frameworks and stuff that, for its OS that are not necessarily just pure Qt. That's just kind of built on Qt.
Yeah.
And you have only dependencies that go one way, meaning KDE is using Qt, but not the other way around. And I like that model much more than what's going on in GNOME world, where everything
Yeah.
seems to slightly depend on everything, often slightly. So, meaning it's only tested with something else, and so it's an implicit dependency often.
Something to think about. Okay. Let me think. So what were you, Joe, you said you had some things you wanted to demo?
Yeah. Just I'll go really quick here, but entire screen.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hang on. I don't remember where I put it.
Oh, I saw Updater. That looks interesting. What is Updater?
Oh, it's actually just the Ghost BSD updater. I just made a wrapper for it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it actually shows up in the tray when there's package updates here. And so like as I'm pushing out ports updates and stuff, you get those along with every other system update.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. Okay.
The change I'm making now is this won't be applications anymore. It'll be local, and then I'll have network here, and it won't be too much of a disruptive change. But anyway, so users, JMOI documents, software. I was looking for the software thing I was working on. Why can I not find? I just had it. Sorry.
Is in the middle on the top row.
There it is.
Yeah. I need to like fix that truncation thing that happens there.
Wow.
Anyway, so I have this thing and it like loads up a couple of repos, and I kind of threw everything together like this. It's not necessarily really the direction I want to go to like put everything in a, copying things from Gap into a brand new repo. And I'll ultimately like to like have some kind of manifest thing where it, just points to an existing repo. But as we know, like, Gap is like kind of weird because it's on like SVN, and then Git has, certain things fixed, and then SVN doesn't, and all that.
Now guess 3 times why it's still on SVN.
Yeah, I'll give you one guess. Two guesses, 3 guesses, and the first one doesn't count.
Well, I guess just because it started as a GNU project, and
no,
I don't know.
Okay, Gap was originally my project because when I came over, and it is still my project, but when I came over, when I started working on GNUstep, I wanted to bring everything that I had known on OpenStep over to GNUstep because I figured the best way to figure out whether or not things worked or not was to port software to it. I started on SVN. Actually, it started on CVS, and then and then it moved over to SVN because we went from Gap to GNA to we went from Savannah to GNA, then back to Savannah, and it's been on Savannah for quite a long time. And certain other people whose name was discussed earlier did object to moving it to Git. So that's why.
So, long story short, this is in a Git repo under the Gershwin project for the short term. Do you think anyone's going to have any issues with that, like the rehosting of stuff that's in Gap? Like,
nope. I certainly don't, and
I didn't attach a license to it or anything because obviously all the software could be different licenses, things like that. But anything contributed here will then show up here. And this isn't
okay. That's nice.
This isn't what the final interface is going to look like. And when you load it up, it's going to have like user domain by default, the option for local machine, the option to install it, network domain, and I'll explain all that later. But so if I go here to click finger and I go build, it'll build it as my user. Install would not require a password for user domain, but since I only have local domain, I get an authentication prompt. And that's a separate tool that I've started, but Pro Bono has a similar one, and we have to figure out which one we're going to settle on. And then
cool. And
so
it,
like, bam, there you go.
It installed it. Very
Yep.
nice.
And then,
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it all works. And then you can build, install, remove, refresh. But I'll have like, upgrade here, versioning, things like that. And then like which domain it might be installed in. Maybe I need to rethink the interface a bit, but it was just kind of a prototype for the discussion. And I wanted to add things here, like PicoPixel and RedoMed and things that are like kind of all over the place. And I would prefer to use upstream sources, but it's just, like I said, it's kind of difficult because like, if I can't like add all of GAP from Git because there's going to be like certain programs in there that don't work, that are only on the SVN version that work there. And it just gets really complicated. So I wonder if in the short term, it makes sense just to kind of fill everything out here. And I hate to do that because like Nextbase and OnFlap, what's the other one? GSE.
Mm-hmm.
They both have their own sets of applications and they're both like isolated, and it's not really sharing with the whole ecosystem.
Which, I mean, yeah, I find that it's a little frustrating that they're doing that, but that's fine.
And but I did want this to be something that anyone running their distributions can grab and get the same thing. Like, I don't want to lock it down to just be a Gershwin specific thing, if that makes sense. And I'll probably just call it software, but I wanted it to be like, if you're just running GNUstep period, you can build this and get all the software in one place.
Well, I mean, it seems to me like this is very similar to something like Brew, except it's of course a GUI application. But because the way I understand how Brew works is that they don't necessarily have their own copy of everything or their own clone of everything. They have a way that they point to like specific projects and they grab that source code and they build it from that. So it's like you were saying before, where it's sort of like a manifest. Other projects like there was one called, oh God, what's it called? CocoaPods, that does something similar, although CocoaPods is more for development and libraries, than it is for actual like full up applications. So yeah, I kind of see it in that vein because that I think it would be because I think you should still build it so that it's sort of generic, so that it does things with with a as a sort of like with that, how can I put it, manifest idea where it basically points to these individual repositories. But with respect to GAP, just I guess I would just.
It's a tough one, but I do want to add the ability for someone to add the GAP repo here if they want to, or any other repo at some point, or maybe one that's structured a specific way that's documented. So that, like you think of like Ubuntu or whatever, or Debian, where you can go add additional repos in software under preferences, or check and uncheck what different repos you want, things like that. Or somebody developing their own thing can add it here. Or you can have just go ahead, sorry.
I would advise have also a look at MacPods. It's similar to Brew, but a little bit more elaborated and older even.
I mean, at some point you will want to have the ability to install build time dependencies, right? And then you need some form of a manifest file. Which makes me wonder whether using something like Brew or MacPorts, or I think there are even a couple of more similar tools that already exist, might give us that infrastructure already out of the box without having to reinvent those. And then put
MacPorts would definitely be very platform specific. So this other thing I was pulling up here, have you ever heard of XCB Kit, Greg? I think you probably have.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it building again.
Oh, cool. Okay.
and I started like doing some new decorations and stuff around it, so you can see like inactive, active.
Oh, nice.
And I was doing some work to try to sync it with GS theme, and I've gotten pretty close, but and I got another experiment I don't have set up to show you today, but I did something where I took a just application like Kate, the text editor for Qt or KDE,
Mhm.
and I wrapped it in an NS window, and then an NS window frame, and then basically when you would move it around, it would move around the X embedded window. But that experiment of wrapping X11 windows to become NS windows does not work well multi-window.
Hmm.
It's like just it's impossible. And of course, having a window manager makes the X embedded thing really, really hard.
Right. I got you.
So, but what I was after with this window manager, and because I'd looked at GSW Maker, I looked which kind of has some theme sync code, but it's not quite GNUstep decorations. It's definitely not GNUstep decorations at all. And XCB kit doesn't really. It uses Caro for the drawing, which I think, if I understand right, GS theme uses anyway, right?
Cairo. Yeah.
Cairo, yeah. So I felt like this was the most native way to approach being able to decorate all windows with the same decorations and use GNUstep as much as possible for that, because it seems like GS theme is very strict about only allowing GNUstep NS windows to be decorated, if I understand it right.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is only because that's all it knows. I mean, because it lives inside the framework. Yeah. So, I mean, gosh, how could we? I mean, because the idea obviously is an NS window is an NS window. So, I mean, that includes everything in the window, including the decorations. You mean, so yeah. So,
So I guess before I get too much further down this approach, because I've fixed a lot of things with this, like the stacking,
mhm.
like when you open text edit, for example, it doesn't appear behind the background and things like that would normally happen if you just use GNUstep as the backend
Mhm.
for decorations. And you'll cycle between apps, they get hidden behind the desktop because there's like no concept of like stacking. It seems like, at least with GNUstep showing the desktop. But
Well, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
but I'm not sure, like, is this the best approach I can possibly pursue, or should I be looking at other things to make X11 apps use GS theme somehow?
Gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know. I don't know. I think you're on the right path, but I don't know because um, I'd have to look into because I think it depends on. Let me see. Okay, I'll just stick with that. I really don't know because what I don't understand is how window managers such as say Window Maker um, can add decorations to existing X windows. And it seems to me that in order to figure out how to do that with GS theme, we'd have to essentially write a window manager that's written in GNUstep. Um, I mean, and we'd have to make it work for only window, sorry, windows that are created by non-GNUstep applications.
Right.
Um,
That's kind of like what I was untangling when doing all this, and it seemed like a much bigger project to do that anyway.
yeah, I mean, it seems to me like it would have to involve something like where the window manager would, I guess, query some sort of something like some sort of setting on each individual window to determine whether or not it was a GNU-step application or not. Maybe because I know in X it's possible to set what are called atoms, like discoverable things that you can put on each. I mean, like tags that you can put on window that I guess sort of marks that it has certain properties. And I think you could probably do something like that to determine whether or not it is a GNUstep window or not. I mean, like if it doesn't have it, sorry, if it does have it, then we know it's a GNUstep window. If it doesn't have it, then it's not, or so on, or vice versa. I'm not sure. That would be my best guess at how to do that. I mean, yeah, because yeah, but that's a long-standing problem, absolutely, and I think
Okay.
you're on the right path to fixing it. Just, I
Then the
mean,
other thing here, and I'm sorry it's not presented well because of the ordering I have this launched in, but his
oh, it's okay.
Pro Bono's native
Menu.
Objective-C native centralized menu server, so
Oh, I
it
like that.
can
That's
it can
great.
support both GNUstep and non-GNUstep apps. It's currently using dbus-kit still for this,
Hmm.
but the problem. Like his menu does solve a lot of things. Like for example, if I try to launch chess, for example, on this system here with XFCE menu, it won't launch at all because it can't send a menu. His will launch, but I won't get a menu still because some apps, I don't know, they send menus differently or handle menus differently. Like
That's weird.
TalkSoup, I don't know why.
Well, there are at least 2.5 different protocols for doing global menus. GNOME has one, or GTK has one. Then Canonical had another one, and then there is slight variations of those.
Hmm.
And it's quite possible that I didn't catch all the edge cases yet. So if you find applications where it doesn't work, I need to look at those and see what messages they are sending on dbus and where a hiccup happens. But in general, this implements both protocols, the GTK native one and the canonical one, which the rest of the world is using, including Chrome. So
Okay.
it works for applications like Chrome, GIMP, GTK2, GTK3, well, GTK4, I have an idea to use the accessibility toolkit to at least get the contents of the hamburger menu, but that is not implemented yet. So the idea is to support as many as possible or as useful protocols that real-world applications out there are using, so that for the user, they all behave the same.
I could probably build. I could probably build something here real quick and show you a better example if it'll clone fast enough. Why is a shallow clone taking so long? Okay, well, so the long story short, even with Pro Bono's menu, some applications don't render menus properly with dbus-kit. And of course, there's the whole problem if the application does not have a window open. When it opens, no menu gets created. So I'm trying to think of some examples, but there are some GNUstep apps, that don't create a window with a menu when you open them, and you have to go make a new document. TextEdit was one of those until I patched it to make a window if nothing was opening.
Yeah, that's also been a concern as well because I mean, some applications don't do that, and that's a problem not only on windowing system. Sorry, menuing systems such as this one. It's also a problem on Windows because Windows, of course, has integrated menus, and there are some systems, there are some situations where we might need to create a document if there is none existing or if one isn't opened.
So I don't know why this is taking forever to clone. It's usually pretty fast. But anyways, so the main thing I was going to ask around this was, I know the menus right now are drawn in like libsGUI and like I think nsmenu.m or something. And they currently like extend to consume the entire thing horizontally. Do you think it's possible somehow in like theming to say like take a GNUstep menu, put it on a panel, but only like take half the menu and just do kind of a rendering trick versus doing a debus send thing.
Oh, sure.
Which,
Yeah, I mean,
which
yeah. I think we discussed this once before. I had done it with the Windows menus because the Windows menus are native Windows menus.
was
They
that the WinUX theme that I need to look
WinUX
at?
theme. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what it does is it literally overrides the NS menu class,
Okay.
and it basically parses the menu structure and creates and builds an NS menu data structure based on it. So I had to set up something that is basically a listener that that sort of like, because when you on oh, cool.
See, no
Oh,
menu.
but it doesn't do the window. Sorry, it
And
doesn't
in
do the menu.
XFCE, it wouldn't even open, and it would
Oh,
actually
wow.
crash the menu. So his menu is a big improvement already.
But
But
yeah,
it's
like
one of, like
like you said, there's probably a bug that's preventing it from.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to think maybe a rendering thing would be better. I don't know if you still feel that way, pro bono, but
Well,
you
yeah,
could
I
look at
mean,
a new X theme.
yeah, just to finish what I was saying before, I had to add a listener in order to, because the way Windows menus work is there is there's a loop that listens for the event, and basically I had to add something in the theme that listens for the event and then passes it on to what is it, to AppKit. So
Okay.
yeah.
We will look into that for sure. So I
Oh,
was
and then
wondering, Joe, why it doesn't even show a fallback menu. Normally, if you have a window without any menus, then my menu should at least give you file close. It doesn't do even that, so possibly that's still a bug.
yeah, I don't know. I have seen that menu and I know what you're talking about. I'm not sure why it's not doing it here, but this was the other thing right here. I brought this up on the mailing list. You see how like when we build a GNUstep app, and this seems to be happening regardless of the distribution. Others have confirmed it, Greg, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've seen that conversation where I had pointed out that libs base is linking against 1.31. So if you upgrade base in the future to 1.32 or whatever, it's going to break. The app is going to break because the
Mm-hmm.
linking is not more generic like libgnustep.gui.so.0.
Yeah, I did see that.
Is that something the project is opposed to because
No,
they said that should be safe to do for base?
I think this is a bug. Yeah, no, this is, go ahead and, if you can find a fix for it, go ahead and fix it. Because unless we,
Well,
unless there's,
I actually know exactly why it's happening. And it's the way it's here.
it's probably in GNUstep make.
Well, I thought this was it. I was just going to show you libs base, and then you go to source, and then because somebody doing the Debian thing pointed me to this, doing Debian packaging. Here we go. Should be here, and then down at the end under it's set up to use this libs GNUstep base interface version. But if you look at libs GUI, it's got a different thing, and I feel like it's because of that. This one line here. I haven't tried it yet, so I could and either make a PR or make a ticket for you guys if you think that is something that should be corrected.
Well, okay, one bit of I guess minutia. Ostensibly, both libs base and libs GUI should be set up as frameworks, but they're not. And that's because that's the reason for that is historical, because of the fact that at the point we did these particular libraries, we did not have any concept that approached sort of what we're doing now for frameworks, and they've never been updated. So what you're looking at there, where it says libs based resources installer, these are the resources for the actual foundation library or the base library. So
Okay.
I'm not sure that I don't think this has anything to do with what it's linking against.
Okay.
that's why I said it was probably in tools make,
Gotcha.
because that's what drives the linker. So I
That
mean,
makes sense.
well, this actually might also be a problem too, because if this is, I mean, because I think if the interface version is too specific, and we could be looking at the wrong resources, but this is not the source of your linking problem. The linking problem is very likely in tools make.
Okay.
So yeah.
I'll see if I can uncover a bit more where it is from there, but if not, I'll just make a issue ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. This is definitely a bug, because what we want to do is we want to link against the as long as there's no ABI breakage,
Right.
in other words, yeah, like then we should be okay to link against. I think, if it's 0 point,
From
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
the I was just going to say, from the ports perspective and the packaging, because I'm now the maintainer of the FreeBSD ports for the core libs, like if I update those, they make me touch every single FreeBSD port anyway with a port revision, so it rebuilds regardless. So, I mean, if it was more generic, and it sounds like the guy who's doing the Debian package is doing the same thing.
Okay.
So anyway, I just didn't know if this was something the project would accept as a fix or would see as a bug or not.
It's a bug.
Okay.
This is definitely a bug. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really all I had to go over today, demos wise and stuff. But thanks for
What did we lose?
kind of unblocking me on a lot of this and pro bono.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah,
know if you
no
had
problem.
pro bono.
Yeah. I was going to say I have one thing I wanted to demo, and that is, gosh, I mean, I always have this huge ass screen here to share with you guys, but let's see, window. Can you guys see my X desktop?
There's a black
Yep.
window. I
Yep,
don't
I can
see
see it.
anything. Hey, now I see it.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a big ass freaking window. Okay, boring. It's NS font asset request. This is of course not as exciting as NS movie. But what I've been doing is I've been, integrating with Google Fonts. And like for instance here I can say, let's just, and it'll go ahead and grab the font, show you a little thing, and unfortunately sometimes I have to like restart, even though I did write the code in order to show, like, update the font cache. Let me see. Yeah, no, it's not there. See, but Roboto and Quicksand were others that I had experimented with. Hold on a second. Let's see. Let me see if I
This
restart
is
here.
very cool. Makes me almost wonder whether you want to integrate that downloading functionality right into the fonts window, the palette.
Well, hold on one second. What do you mean?
This fonts panel, where you select the installed fonts, could also have the box to install new fonts, right?
You're not wrong. I hadn't thought about that. Hold on one second. Which one did I just download? It was
Roboto?
Sensation right there. There we go. Right there. See, there's Sensation font. And of course Roboto. But you're right. I could put like a little box down here saying where it says, like, one of the other things that we might be able to do is we might be able to query that service and just get a list or a drop down of fonts that we could install.
Right.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, I mean, this is just, I mean, I had stubbed out a number of different classes for compatibility, but I went back. Been going back and trying to make sure that they're all building and working. And this is one of them. And I think you were all here when I demonstrated NS Movie before, I believe. If you weren't, I can show that to you guys as well. But yeah, it's much improved now. Hold on, I'm trying to find the window where you guys are again, because I lost you. There we go. Yeah, no, I mean, it's much improved now. You can stop, start, go forward. It actually gives you, it reports back to the GUI if you have the, the outlet set. It gives you the ability to change the, to mute, to track where you are in the movie. Basically like a little bar that continues across as you're playing it, and stuff like that. And the sound is much improved, and it's still a little choppy right at the beginning, but it sort of evens out. I've got like Richard and Fred, reviewing it right now. Of course, it's rather complicated, so it's taking them a while to review it. So once it gets in, though, I think it's not perfect, but I think that there's probably people who know a lot more about AV codec than I do, who can take a look at it and say, "Oh, well, this is the problem right here." So yeah, so hopefully I'll get those in relatively soon. But I really love your suggestion, Pro Bono, about putting something in the font panel directly. That is, I think I didn't think about that. I think that's awesome.
I mean, to expand on that idea, I don't know whether it's technically feasible, but what would also be cool is if you open a document that uses a font that is not installed on the system,
Hmm.
if the panel could recognize that and then just ask the user whether you want to download that font, if it's
You know
one
what?
of the known.
That's actually not a bad idea either. I mean, and actually one of the things I did in this class is I created something called GS Font Asset Downloader, and GS Font Asset Downloader by default just goes to Google. But of course, you can override it and just say, "Hey, I want to use." I mean, an NS Font Asset, request basically allows you to replace the downloader, um, and say, "Oh, okay, instead of this font downloader, I wanted to use this one," and using a different service is as easy as overriding, the method that actually just takes the font, the font descriptor, and going to the URL and making the proper request. So, I mean, I've tried to make it as replaceable as possible and as expandable as possible, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to tie us to a particular service when we don't have to be tied.
Sure.
So yeah, but yeah, so yeah, you're right, and excellent suggestions, absolutely. And I think I think I might, after after this is after this is after this bit of functionality is accepted, I'm going to open another PR, and I'm going to do exactly what you suggested and make it part of the font panel. So, hey Twilight, how's it going? So yeah. But yeah, I've also been working on accessibility. Is it NS accessibility? NS accessibility custom rotor, NS accessibility custom element, and the accessibility functions. And basically, what they do is currently in the release they don't do anything. It's just a stub. But as of now, what they do is they actually put out like they issue NS notifications, and there's a slicker, an actual way of attaching it or associating with a button or whatever it is you have in your GUI, so that when you hover over it or when you click on it, it can reach out to whatever accessibility framework is available and read it to people who are blind or who have other accessibility problems. So I just don't want to leave any corner of the framework unimplemented. And I think I told you guys last time I actually started working on one that was available under GNUstep but seldom used, called NS Data Link, which is actually working now. So that's one that poor Fred and Richard have to review as well, because I've been very busy. So, but anyway, so who else joined? Pro Bono. Hey, Larry, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I had to find my mute button there.
Yeah, no problem. I remember you were here before. You were you were the one who did the MIDI software, correct?
No, no. I'm mostly just a user of GNUstep, and my main activity is submitting bug fixes to
Ah,
GNUstep base.
very cool. Very cool. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, I was just going over the, I don't know when you joined because I was kind of like concentrating on my window, but I was just going over some of the improvements that I've made, and Joe was also going over some of the ones that he and Pro Bono had been working on. So yeah.
Seeing Twilight here, we tried to get PicoPixel packaged as an app image. Actually, I had that almost working quite rapidly, but one thing I couldn't get solved so far, and that is how GNUstep back is loading or is constructing the path for loading its resources. It seems like the library is trying to load resources from NS standard library paths plus bundles, but I don't know how to modify that so that it would load it not from one built-in path, but something that I could set at runtime. Do you happen to know how to influence how this path gets put together? Is there an environment variable or something like that, maybe?
He says, thanks for trying it out. I'll take a look.
Ah, fantastic. So it seems like libgnustep back is trying to load resources from the bundle. That's what I could figure, but I wasn't able to influence that path where it tries to load that from. So that is the remaining showstopper. Everything else was quite straightforward. I could imagine that is also something to consider when you try to bundle GNUstep for Windows applications. If you say you have a Windows application and you want to privately bundle GNUstep, probably also there the library will want to load resources from its bundle. So if anyone knows how that mechanism works, I would be very interested in that.
He says, I don't think PicoPixel does anything special with regards to loading resources. Are there other apps that have issues loading them?
Yeah, I would assume it's a GNUstep.
Hello?
GNUstep back.
Are you talking about like where it wouldn't do menus and stuff?
Sorry, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. You faded out a
Yeah.
little bit.
So it seems like it is a GNUstep-wide thing. It's libgnustep back that tries to load resources from libgnustep back.bundle. And the path for that gets generated by using NS standard library paths. And I haven't found a way to influence that path at runtime. That's what I'm looking for.
Oh, there is a default called GS backend. I think that you can use to point it to the correct backend, but I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for. Let me see.
I will try that. GS backend, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not set, it will just use whatever is in the directory that contains the libs back bundle, or sorry, lib GNUstep back bundle. But yeah, so that is the one way to influence it, but I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the resources that it might need to load. Let me think.
Were you guys talking about how like PicoPixel wasn't loading GNUstep menus by chance?
No, we were discussing to bundle PicoPixel along with GNUstep as an app image, which almost works except for libgnustep back not being able to load its own resources because it's trying from a different path that I so far couldn't influence at runtime.
Okay. Different issue than I was seeing then. But I was going to try it on another system before I report anything.
Is there a way to set settings like GS backend by setting an environment variable?
No, what you would do is, oh, I'm sorry. What you would do is there's a tool called default or defaults. I think it's, oh, is it defaults or default?
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but that sets it then system-wide, right?
Per
Yeah,
user.
yeah, per user. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, per user. You
Okay,
can
I
actually,
will.
sorry, you can actually make it per application as well, because all you would need to do is instead of doing it in the NS global domain, you could do it in the application specific domain. In other words, like if you're doing it for Gorm, you'd write to Gorm's, defaults domain. And
Okay,
yeah,
that will do. I will try. Thank you.
okay, no problem.
So you can use global domain properties in apps?
Yeah, you can actually set, like for instance, a GS theme. You can, instead of saying like defaults, write NS global domain GS theme and then whatever the theme name is, you could
Yeah.
do it and say, defaults, right, and then the name of the app, whatever the app is using as the, whether it's com.GNUstep or org.GNUstep dot whatever, or just Gorm, or just whatever the application name is, or the
Mhm.
the name that it's storing its defaults under. You could say that name and then GS theme and then the name of the theme, and only that app would be affected by the theme.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'd noticed that you can do like certain things with themes plist, like you can set interface styles and so on. But I didn't know it was that general. Like you could use anything outside of GS theme.
Yeah, generally anything that you can set in the global domain, you can set in the application specific domain.
Cool.
Craig, did you have time to work on the install scripts again?
Yeah, probably after the meeting for a bit.
Because if they are done, I have some ideas for improvements.
Well, I am currently, I mean, now that I'm kind of reached a point where all of these like different PRs that I've submitted are at a stage where they're basically waiting. Who else joined? Oh,
It was me. I got dropped. Sorry.
oh, okay. Yeah, I've been meaning to go back to that, because what I was trying to do was break it up so that um, fewer decisions have to be made inside of the actual scripts, because a lot of them are like, for instance, operating system specific. And given that I mean, by the time we get to the point where we've actually executed that script, we already know which operating system we're using. So from there, we can get dependencies, and from there, we can execute certain other scripts, and we can make assumptions in those sort of lower level scripts, instead of just doing a whole lot of ifs like I'm doing right now.
Okay.
So what I'm doing at the moment is I'm refactoring it so that things live in discrete directories, and where you have you have Windows, and then under Linux you have like several different Linux distributions, because unfortunately Linux is rather fractured. And then you have under BSD, you have the different versions of BSD and so on, because we can kind of, I guess, depend on, I guess, we that way it simplifies all the scripts, even though it does duplicate some of them in some ways across those different like directories. It actually makes it a whole hell of a lot easier to debug, because at least you know which path you're going down without having to dig through a whole bunch of if statements.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it also, I think, makes the scripts more generally useful because, I mean, before they were again, this is just something that, like with Gap, where it started as something where I was like, hey, this is convenient. And now it's like more people are using it than just me. So I have to make it actually nice, which sucks. And I
What do
was,
you think about the idea to have a script which asks the users several questions what features they want, like for instance, global menu, a bar at the top, and things like file system layout, if it be FHS or classical OpenStep layout and stuff like that.
oh, you
How
mean
about?
making those kinds of installation decisions? Is
Yeah,
that what
yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
about?
Just ask the user for it
You
with a
know,
short explanation, or is it too difficult or
I,
too complicated?
right now I'm going to keep it simple and just make it install one standard way. We can add those switches later. But I was actually going to ask for everybody else. I mean, some to some degree, I think like too much configuration is kind of the enemy of making things like
Yeah.
a bit more like solidly integrated. Like I would argue we should probably. I mean, this is going to be controversial, at least to many people, not just to but is dropping GCC support. I mean, because GCC does not have great support for Objective-C 2.0. A lot of people rely on using Objective-C 2.0. It partially supports some things and it doesn't support other features. For instance, it doesn't have like you can't do blocks in GCC. We have to use it, but that's the whole reason why we need to use in the actual framework why we're using a a macro to do it. And stuff like that. So that's one thing. That's just an example. But for instance, like making things too flexible in some cases can honestly be the enemy of making things good, because then you're too diversified and you're concentrating on too many different things. Too many branches of the same tree, if you will. So what do you guys think about that?
I think if all the supported operating systems by the script work with LLVM, then we could drop GCC from the
Yeah.
scripts, but not from GNUstep at all, because somebody will oppose it.
Oh yeah, I know. A lot of people will oppose it, actually, not just Ricardo, but a lot of people. I mean, it might. I mean, Richard and others might. And I'm not talking about Richard Stallman. I'm talking about Richard Frith McDonald might not like that idea. There might be others that would object to it as well, only because we are a GNU project. In spite of the fact that we're on Git, we are still under the umbrella of the FSF. So yeah. But I mean, ultimately, I think it's best. It's the best. That particular choice is the best. Is the best. A decision for the project because Clang is more modular, better, better maintained, and has a wider set of features. So the only problem is that while GCC supports a wider range of architectures, but Clang supports the language better, so it's kind of a trade-off. But that's not the only choice I was talking about. I was talking about what you were talking about with respect to menus and stuff like that. I mean, should we? I mean, I guess this kind of goes back to the question you were asking earlier, Pro Bono. Is it better to force people to use a particular configuration? Do you think? What do you think?
Well, it seems like we have at least two paradigms. One is the GNUstep OpenStep paradigm, and the other is a more Mac-like Gershwin type paradigm. And possibly there are even more. I could imagine people will want something more classic Mac OS versus Mac OS 10-ish. So probably there is not a one size fits all here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, there's
probably
also
a separation between the frameworks and the desktop environment, like in Qt KDE, as we discussed before, is the most logical thing and also the cleanest architecturally.
Well, I mean, that's what we currently have. I mean, but yeah, no, I agree. So I think anything interface related with respect to certain looks, certain scenes, and stuff like that needs to be handled on the desktop level, without a doubt. So
It should be maybe also switchable during runtime, not just
Ideally, yes.
compile time. I don't
well,
know.
I mean, themes are configurable during runtime, so that's not a huge issue. It's just a matter of what are you going to install and configure right at the beginning, because unless you make it like dead easy in order for people to switch themes, which it already kind of is with system preferences, but it's not going to be something that people that people are going to do regularly. Just saying.
Is it in the scripts, the theming, or it's not?
Huh?
Is the script ability
This
the theming ability compiled by the scripts?
for the Windows scripts, yeah, it is. But for everything else, it just uses the standard interfaces. I don't make any assumptions with respect to theme unless you're building for Windows. I think assuming that we're going to use the Windows interface on Windows is a very safe assumption. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we should maybe also compile the theming ability into the normal installation during the scripts install,
Possibly.
because regular complaint about GNUstep, it looks so old, it looks so 90s, and if we can make it installing out of the box a modern theme, it would be nicer for people.
Well, I
Well,
mean,
for that,
go
sorry.
ahead, Pro Bono.
For that, the theme is one aspect, but not the only aspect. For example, if you would like to have a global menu, like we showed before, that is, at least how it's implemented currently, a separate application. So just shipping the theme wouldn't give you that.
Okay.
Meaning, if you want such a look and feel out of the box, you would need to also bundle and ship the menu application.
That's true.
If you want that to work also for non-GNUstep applications, which
Usually you would, I think, because you don't want to
I
have.
think is important, to be honest, because reality is there are other applications out there on most desktops, and it will at least be a while before we have only GNUstep software running on a GNUstep desktop. So at
Yeah,
least,
of course.
I mean,
It's
speaking practically,
it's also the same on macOS. They have several applications that don't fit the paradigm, but these applications are usually considered not so good. It's better to integrate fully, if possible.
I mean, if you take something like the GIMP, the graphic application, and you run it through a global menu that also, like we are doing in Gershwin, also remaps the shortcuts to be on the Alt key and not on the Control key. At least for me, the application instantly feels much, much more native than otherwise. You have the same menu, you have familiar shortcuts. Yeah, the dialogues look a little bit different. One could also make for GTK and Qt themes that resemble at least the GNUstep theme. But with that, you would already get much more integration than you would have otherwise.
Actually, I have a question for Twilight. Is Pico Pixel available for Windows? I think it is. I don't remember.
There was a clone, or not a clone, but a application that wrapped somehow all of GIMP, but I forgot the name. It was relatively similar to all other GNUstep apps.
Going back to that talk about GCC and Clang LLVM, it really just seems like the big split right now is newcomers are extremely confused, and it's so much so that people are just not using GNUstep because of this split, and because of the default is GCC, and there doesn't really seem to be any real advantage to using GCC unless you want to use some obscure antique system that probably not very many users are actually using. And it seems like if somebody really wants to run GNUstep on an antique system, then they can just do their own. I mean, if at that point, if they're running a system like that, they can just continue using GNUstep as it is. But for the future of GNUstep, it really seems like GCC is a kind of like with what Simon was talking about, with the communication being a big limiting factor. It also seems like GCC is like that because, as far as I know,
I could be wrong, but when you build with tool scripts, I think Clang is the default. I think it's the packaging. The people doing the packaging aren't following consistent guidelines and are using different layouts here and there. And like for example, I don't think Debian has a package for libobjective-C, but FreeBSD does.
Yeah,
So they
Debian
fall
doesn't.
back to
Debian
GCC
doesn't.
Objective-C.
So what I can tell here from doing the work on the menu, it was driving me crazy trying to build this thing, get it built on whatever the distributions ship. I tried multiple distributions. I ran into crash after crash and was about to give up when Joe pointed me to, why don't you install the whole GNUstep from source? And I did that using the scripts, and voila, it worked.
Yeah, he was building on Debian, I think, using their packages, and was like trying to use Arc, or was not using Arc yet. And I was like, well, why aren't you using Arc? And then it didn't even really occur to me that Debian actually doesn't seem to have a libobjective-C2 package, and I don't think I don't know. I couldn't find one anyway.
Yeah, they use the one that's included with GCC, which is not compatible. And I think the reason why they won't include the one from David is for some silly reason, and that is because it has a similar name to the one from in GCC. So it's I think what we need to do is take more direct sort of control over the packaging of our stuff on different distributions, because of the fact that it's done very inconsistently, and it leads to
Well,
users being confused.
I don't know what
Especially
Debian would look
if you're
like,
new.
but I feel like I could get an Arch packaging thing going pretty quickly, especially if we get that commit into file systems in ToolsMake for the layout. And I would just have to look at others from there. But
Yeah. What were you saying, Pro Bono?
Sorry, I was just saying, especially it's confusing if you're new and are not aware which combination of compilers and libraries and runtimes you should be using. You just blindly assume, at least I did, that whatever Debian ships will probably be the right thing, which turned out to be wrong.
Well, another issue is that Debian and other distributions of Linux want to strictly stick to the file system hierarchy standard, which I think is a little bit antiquated in the sense that they want to stuff all the binaries into
Yeah.
into user bin or user local bin, and they want to put all the resources into user share or user
Yep.
local share and so on. And they want to break up the applications when in reality you could simply just copy everything into applications and have it work.
Well, Greg,
But
this
yeah.
is one of the reasons I went with GhostBSD first, because even that could be a little bit of negotiation to get FreeBSD to even allow something like that. But like GhostBSD, AUR, those things, I know I could get around it, and I could put some ISOs out there and then build up a mind share of why this is a good thing and why others should allow it. And like, especially when they see something like, they boot up a couple of Gershwin systems and they go to network on one, and then it offers to set up a network server or something for the first, and then the others just auto discover it, and all of a sudden now you can like have one system, that has like a network applications, and then all of the other machines in your home or your small business, can be using the same thing, and the software.app can support it, and it'll integrate, and you can have the user apps thing. And like, I think once I build all that out and document it and screenshot it and show people the advantages of all this and what it can do, I mean, I've never seen another distribution offers to do something that simple, like drop dead simple, to where you can have things more networkable too.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Like really exploit the ability of the network domain was my thinking, and the user domain through the software.app, and then like push that as a reason for these other distributions to consider allowing us to do this.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, and it's funny because there are so many concepts that that still exist in Mac and existed in OpenStep that have not been leveraged properly and never were.
And that's why I don't really. I think at some point I might even have to change how Gershwin is described, because I kind of like put Mac OS 10 like experience, but really, I mean, it's kind of like picking up where Rhapsody started on a good idea with the whole domains thing and taking it further, versus like compromising, to do the / applications thing and breaking the mental model of the domains. And like, I don't really want to copy all of their ideas or be exactly like Mac OS 10. I want to be like a better Mac OS 10 or a better Rhapsody than Rhapsody or Mac OS 10.
Oh, absolutely. I
Take
totally
the
agree.
good ideas and make them better. Like,
expand on them. Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
I agree.
Somebody brought up, maybe it was Luke or somebody brought up window shade, the window shade button, and I'd like to have like that on the right hand side of every window, being able to just roll up a window by clicking a button, or have like horizontal scroll bars in every window, like workspace, and then have like a resize, and a very obvious place to resize a window.
I actually forgot about that functionality. I actually did forgot about that.
Also, services are as a stepchild of Mac OS X or Mac OS 10.
Yep.
They exist, but they are barely used.
Yeah. Oh, and Twilight answered my question. The answer is no. There is no PicoPixel for Windows. So I could have discovered that by going to the actual website, because it's not there. But yeah, that might be something to think about, porting it to.
Are you aware of any application for Windows that ships a private copy of GNUstep?
Yes. Eggplant. It's distributed by a company that I used to work for named Keysight. Yep.
Okay, that's good to know. Probably there the resources loading must already have been solved in some way. I will have a look there.
Yes, actually, one thing you might want to look at, and I meant to mention this when you brought it up before, there is a in Tools Make, there is something called standalone.make, and I think that's what they're using, because what that will do is it will basically copy, when you build a standalone version of the application, it will copy all the resources and any libraries and anything like that that it is using into the application wrapper, so that when you run it,
Oh
it will have
wow,
everything there.
That
was that again,
sounds
Greg?
like exactly what I'm looking for. Wow.
What did you say that was? I was looking for something similar.
It's called standalone.make, I think.
Okay.
I'm not 100% certain because I don't think I've used it recently.
Cool.
But yeah, even if it's not working, it could give you some guidelines on how to do it, and if you are so disposed, then to fix it if it doesn't work.
Great.
But I believe that it does. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it in a long time. Hmm.
So a wild idea.
What's that?
Since we have this nice bundle format, it would theoretically be possible to have fat bundles, meaning Windows, Linux, BSD, everything in one app bundle.
We already have that too. There is a way. I mean, okay, if you look at there's an option in I believe when you configure either tools make or libspace. I'm not sure. I think it's tools make, but it will allow you to enable the flattened mode, and that is turned on by default. And flattened, of course, is what we use now, pretty much ubiquitously, where you basically have the .app and the resources, and then the executable. But if you don't do that, if you turn it off, if you turn flattened off, what it's going to do is it's going to create the app wrapper, and then it's going to create a script inside of the app wrapper that will then, based on whatever architecture you are running on, there is a directory structure that it creates. I'm not sure what that directory structure is anymore. I know that I think it's like Arch, and then underneath that it has different architectures, and or other who left? Oh, that was pro bono. Oh, okay. Are you still there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What it does is it basically the triplet, where it's like runtime, operating system, or rather runtime, and then, let's see.
Architecture, operating system, runtime, something like that.
Yeah,
Probably.
something like that, like runtime architecture or architecture runtime, whatever. I mean, however that's working. It breaks it down into, I guess, a triplet, and
Wow.
it goes down into that directory structure based on what you're running on. And I actually used to use this when I had a Next machine. I used to regularly, like, I would copy for stuff that was in Gap. I would regularly copy the stuff that was like existing in the GNUstep structure. I would copy it into the same file system, and it would basically, I would launch it on the Next, and then I would launch it on GNUstep, and it would just work. It was great.
Wow. You
But
guys have thought of everything. That's fantastic.
I mean, we've been at this for such a long time.
That's true.
I found both of those things pro bono. I shared them with you in the IRC.
Oh, cool. Okay.
It was tools make, like you said, Greg.
Yep.
And I didn't realize there was a whole standalone layout. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, some of this stuff may have not been tested in a while, so I don't know. I mean, particularly the one where we're going through like multiple architectures. I think it still works. There's no reason why it shouldn't. But I'm worried that things may have changed at some point that might break things.
Yeah.
Because not
Hasn't been tested
everybody.
in many years.
Yeah. not everybody is like building it that way anymore. So I mean, it's possible that something might have broken it. I mean, it's interesting how such simple ideas can make things so much easier on, like, for instance, you could just have just one big ass, like, disk that has the applications that are built for multiple different architectures, and you could just run it off of that instead of having multiple copies of everything like on different systems. And it just makes it so much easier to just install it for everything you have, rather than simply, rather than having it live on 6 or 7 different systems, have it live on one in one directory and just share it out and have it run on everything. I mean, and it's like you said with the networking stuff. Sorry, go ahead.
Now a real wild idea. Wouldn't it be cool if we had a compiler that would be able to cross-compile that for all the different OSs and architectures? And I'm thinking of SIG here. I don't know whether you have heard of SIG. It's a kind of extended C
Mm-hmm.
language that comes with its own compiler, which can do that sort of thing. Have you ever tried to use it for GNUstep? I haven't tried so far.
I have heard of Zig before. I've never tried it. Never tried it. That would be interesting, though. That would be definitely an interesting experiment. But yeah, I mean, I imagine there's ways. One thing we used to have a long time ago is we used to have a build farm that would basically, like, it did the
Oh,
same thing. Yeah, it did the same thing that that GitHub's, like CI/CD stuff does now. But it basically would, build GNU-step for tons of different architectures. So yeah.
yeah, I mean, being able to distribute apps for Windows, Linux, BSD, for Intel 64 and ARM 64, at least that already makes how many? 6 combinations.
Hmm.
Having an automated way in a build farm for that would be a great advantage.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I mean, for a while, I mean, I think Adam and one of the original people on the project, his name was Scott Chrisley. You'll see his name in some of the art, some of the source code. He had set up that build farm so that people would be able to join it and have, like, and contribute, like, allow, like, their machines to be used as part of the farm. And whenever, like, a new build needed to be done, it would basically just contact all these different machines, even though obviously, unless you have a ton of machines, you're not going to be able to build everything, and would just farm it out to all these people, and it would just upload all the results in one place. It was actually pretty cool. But kind of moved away from that. But it would be nice to see
Yeah.
if we could set something like that up again.
These days, probably most people will use GitHub Actions for that.
Hmm.
But then you still, it's not that easy. I mean, it's possible, but it's not that straightforward if you want to have it for all the architectures and operating system combinations.
Oh, one thing I wanted to show you guys. This has. I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked at the at the. Hold on. Let me see. Hold on. Wow. Nope. No, not that one. 1 second. Have you guys looked at the GNUstep, what do you call it, documentation lately?
You mean like the developer.GNUstep.org?
Yes. No. Well, not just that. Actually, it's the one that lives on the it lives on the what do you call it? It lives on the main website, but I want to move this over to the developer one.
Oh no, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's looking pretty good, and that's what it looks like now. I mean, it's rather plain. but it's still
Ooh.
better than it was before. You know,
That is
I
way
mean,
better.
yeah, and it's like whoever I think it was actually. I mean, let's give him proper credit. Obviously, I think it was Ricardo that did this CSS that makes it look a lot better like this.
Cool.
You know, and so yeah, I don't know. Something one of you guys said, like, kind of like, sort of made me think about this, and I'm not sure who it was. But yeah, I mean, it was,
So it's getting this from all the auto GS doc content and just applying CSS to it.
yes, and it's using it's using the CSS that is distributed in AutoGS doc, and I think it's a matter of the reason why the GUI documentation doesn't have this yet, but I think it's because we haven't rebuilt it. But one thing I've been trying to do, and it's because you mentioned GitHub earlier, Proboto, is the one thing I would love to do, you know, is whenever we do like a release, I would like to be able to build the documentation and automatically deploy it so that we don't have to automatically, I mean, once we don't have to always like copy it over manually, which kind of sucks. You know, we would just do a release and it would just build the documentation along with everything else. That would be ideal. But I mean, one thing I've been doing aside from all the coding that I've been doing is in, you know, in GUI I've been documenting a lot of the classes that didn't have documentation before. So hopefully that helps a bit because, you know,
Definitely. That is very cool.
yeah.
I mean, extending this, I'm just thinking loud here. There is this thing called MCP servers, which allows LLMs to read documentation and also to even access APIs. So possibly we could use the documentation, turn it into such a MCP server that then could be used by Copilot and Co.
Oh, really? Yeah, I hadn't
think
thought
it should
about
be
that.
possible, but I haven't